is able to bring such a great thoughts and very encouraging words for us. Thank you. May I call upon Joseph Rickson? Actually, Joe is not only passionate about Kachin people and Kachin culture. Actually, she fell in love with Kachin woman, and now she got a baby. And she's an anthropologist and doing his doctoral research. And he just recently came back from Thailand. And let's give him a big applause.
Thank you for the introduction. I'm glad to have the opportunity to speak today. And at an event like this, it's actually good to see a lot of familiar faces, but it's also very good to see a lot of faces that aren't familiar. Because it's important that people from outside the community here in Sydney become aware of some of these issues that are being discussed today. And I hope my brief talk today can help give some background to the current struggle, the current conflict, as well as raise some important issues and questions that can be discussed later after we all finish over some food and drinks. And also have some knowledge and some questions that we can take home with each other and think about it the next time we see, or hear these issues on the news or read them in the newspaper, that we have a greater understanding about what is actually going on behind these issues. So, the Kachin have a long history of fighting for independence, greater autonomy and recognition. Kachin have played a significant role in Burma's movement to gain independence, from colonial British Burma, from where they were fighting to expel the Japanese troops, to signing the Panglong Agreement for an independent Burma, to the current crisis with the central Burmese government. But even before and during the British rule, the Kachin domain has long been an independent entity. In 1947, the Panglong Agreement was established, and included in this important agreement for an independent Burma was the principle of equality. This cannot be forgotten, that from 1947, that there was a principle of equality that the Kachin were involved with and signed. The Kachin took the bold political move to pursue this agreement with General Aung San to form the Union of Burma. Kachin placed trust in this agreement and to the principles that it entailed. Kachin were one of the principal figures in this agreement that involved the founding of modern Burma. But as most of us here today realize, the events preceding this historic event have not boded well for the Kachin or other ethnic minorities in Burma. What many people forget is that when the Union Jack was finally lowered and the flag of the Union of Burma was raised on the 4th of January 1948, one of the 5 smaller stars on that new flag represented the Kachin. A fact that has been given little significance ever since. I believe that the current impasse and humanitarian crisis is significant because it highlights the historical background to the challenges faced by ethnic minorities in Burma. An issue that the international community must also recognize. Despite the stipulations set forth in the Panglong Agreement that recognize full autonomy in internal administration for minorities in Burma, and particularly their formerly independently ruled frontier areas, which Kachin State was a part of under the British, consecutive Burmese governments have refused and out failed to implement the principles and visions created in Kachin State. With a long history of political and ethnic violence that date back decades to independence, the dynamics of armed struggle cannot simply be attributed to contemporary grievances or conditions. Therefore, it would be unfair and incorrect to label Kachin as rebels or insurgents, is what the commonly used terms that we see in the media today. The dichotomy or relationship that is commonly used to distinguish the current conflict in Burma is that of rebels versus the government. This is inadequate. It does not clearly depict the real situation of what is happening, because it is a case where the government that is exploiting the people, denying them rights, committing human rights violations, and violating the founding principles of international law, not the ethnic minorities. Kachin are defending their people, their land, and their freedom from Burmese military aggression. Reformist jargon on the part of the Burmese government will not end decades of political conflict, violation of human rights, and uneven development in ethnic areas. The continuing disregard and violation of human rights in ethnic areas cannot be dismissed in pursuit of the illusion of reform in central Burma. In the north of the country, where the majority of ethnic minorities live, there are very different dynamics occurring, such as cultural oppression, suppression of rights and freedoms, and the fact that the government has very lucrative economic deals with countries such as China in Kachin State. Once again, this is a fact that is commonly overlooked in the media. After over 50 years of armed struggle, people tend to overlook the question of why. Why has it gone on for so long? If we look deep into the issue, we see a struggle fundamentally for the respect of human rights, together with ethnic, educational, environmental, economic, and humanitarian social imperatives that must all be addressed simultaneously. If the very existence of a people, in this case Kachin, is not recognized and respected, then resistance should be expected. All such rights and responsibilities are essential and must be recognized as an integral part of the path to democracy, social stability, and national development. Kachin, like all people, are born with basic rights and freedoms, but they have had them systematically taken away from them as a result of years of oppression and exclusion from the political process, even though they have continued to actively try to participate. This current ethnic armed struggle should not be seen as problematic or a rebellion. Once again, words that commonly you find in the media. However, it must be understood as a matter of survival, both ethnic, political, and economic, for the Kachin themselves. The image of a smooth path of transformation and reform portrayed by the central Burmese government to the international community is therefore clearly at odds with the political practice. The central government continues policies of exclusion and control over people and land in ethnic areas for political and economic reasons, among others. Multiple factors and complex issues exist in the historical relationship between the Burmese government and Kachin. These issues cannot be addressed in isolation. They are fundamentally interconnected with the struggle for recognition, for political legitimacy, increased autonomy, development, and human rights. Due to international isolation, however, the scale and severity of ethnic conflict and the state's out-and-out failure to its people has often been overlooked. As we've heard earlier today, the tens of thousands of refugees are fleeing for their lives to KIO-controlled areas. This act speaks volumes about who is protecting the lives and rights of these ethnic civilians. This crisis highlights the true level of reform that the government is committed to. While there is talk with the international community about change and democracy, Burmese troops continue to attack the KIA and innocent Kachin civilians. Engagement is a word that we hear often, but it's also a very important word when it comes to dealing with the international community's relationship to the current Burmese government. There must be engagement in ethical or responsible politics from the outside the international community, means saving lives of the marginalized people. Ethical issues must stay on the table, protecting innocent lives and sparing communities from further destruction and abuse. The greatest urgency now is to establish direct humanitarian aid for the tens of thousands of displaced Kachin, because peace is not a priority for Burma in the north. Issues of containment and control of people and resources still persist, even today. Real citizen involvement is needed in creating a federal democratic Burma, and not just a token involvement of a few elite. Western governments are praising the regime to open new markets for their corporations and other interests. People are talking primarily about business, over important issues such as health, education, environment, and the tens of thousands of Kachin refugees. It cannot remain business as usual. The specific historical, political, and cultural dynamics and dimensions of the relationship between the central government and Kachin must be addressed and understood by the international community to achieve genuine peace and reform. Unless the existence of Kachin are respected and recognized as an integral part of the reform process, then people should expect to see resistance. The Kachin crisis needs urgent international attention. This is clear, and this is why we're all here today. Let's not let this be swept under the carpet. Let's all open our eyes, open our ears, and send our thoughts, our prayers, and anything else we can to the suffering people in Burma. Thank you very much.